The new technology rules will allow the Vandy coaching staff to provide more detailed information that will put the team in better position to win.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports just stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. On today's episode, we analyze the effect of the tactical changes made by Clark Lea. We'll talk more about what that means. Also, the improvements in training with all of those. How do we know that they're working? But most importantly, the new technology rules, like I said, will allow the Vandy coaching staff to provide better quality information that will put the team in a better position to win. So there are two technology rules that we're talking about mostly here today. One that allows helmet communication and the other allows tablets on sidelines. And both are long overdue. And starting with the helmet communication, why is it effective? Okay, well, the amount of information you can communicate will create a clearer picture for the quarterback, for one. Number two, it allows, if you're a team that has shorter and simpler play calls, it will actually allow the coaches to not only give you the play calls, but they'll give you certain alerts. They may give you, like you see in the NFL where you have kill plays, things like that. They will allow you to do that kind of thing. So the amount of detailed information you're getting is going to provide that clearer picture. Because imagine you get a simple play call and you relay it to your guys. And meanwhile, as you're relaying that, Coach Beck or Coach Kill is in your ear telling you, okay, hey, alert the safety here. The safety's going to jump this route, look him off, and throw backside. And they can say all of that in 25 seconds if they can get the play call in. If it's a longer play call, obviously the amount of alert information you can give will obviously go down. But I think just out on the field, it gives you a chance to provide that clear information so the quarterback can be a little bit more confident and, okay, well, there's a lot going on. This is a tough environment. I've been getting hit. Maybe I just need to calm down, and coach telling me to key the boundary corner here or telling me to, hey, he's going to, give me predictive stuff. That could help. I think with the advancement that Tim Beck and Jerry Kill and Diego Pavia all have within this scheme, I think having a veteran quarterback, and I say veteran quarterback because he is a veteran within the scheme, having a guy like Pavia, the information that you can give Pavia versus Nate Johnson is vastly different and way more helpful, because you can say, hey, okay, Diego, we're going to go check with me here. Okay. We're going to, I want you to make a play call based on how the safety's aligned to this certain formation. So we're going to go gun trips right. Check with me, alert the strong safety. So number 13 sitting out there, where's his leverage at? We're going to make a play call based on his leverage. Or you've got an RPO called and the coordinator can say, hey, the bubble screen looks good here. And then, it allows you a more clear picture, or seemingly a more clear picture than what you would have without it, with trying to get all the signals, trying to dissect. Like you go from trying to dissect the signals, it also simplifies things too. And you go from trying to dissect the signals. Okay, is the guy in the green hat and green shirt live? Is the guy in the orange hat and the orange shirt live? What is he doing? Okay, I got to squint. Okay, is he doing this? Is he doing that? Is he doing this? you have to really focus on like the signals, and you really have to focus on like, or like if you got those big goofy boards, you're like, okay, the picture of Jay Leno versus the Aflac Duck, what does it all mean? You have to kind of decipher all of that stuff. And it simplifies versus saying, okay, let's go dolphin right shift to green tight 32 wide zone. And you hear that, and then you can go, okay, guns. You can, if you're in the huddle, you can call that, or if it's kind of get on the line, it's kind of a check with me. They're barking out the formation, and they're going to give you the play call in the head, in the ear, and then you disseminate that however you need to. But I think it's just going to be more effective, more efficient. And I think you're going to get better quality of information there. But the one that really fires me up, and the one that I'm just so glad that they've decided to enter the 21st century and the third decade of the 21st century, is the tablets on the sidelines. You want to talk about something that's been long overdue. The earpieces have been in the NFL since '94, which, I mean, that's overdue in college as well. But like, I can see where there might be a little bit of discrepancy between, some of your bigger programs and some of your smaller programs. Like University of Buffalo is probably not going to be afford it to the level that Georgia is going to be able to afford, or anybody in the SEC. So I get the fairness thing of that particular rule. Like, now I think college football has enough money to be able to provide, the NCAA has enough money to be able to just provide it across the board for all of FBS, and maybe even all of FCS too, all of Division I. But you have the ability to do it. You should be able to do it. And then the tablets, that one baffles me, because that should have been something that happened a long time ago. Because you get these schools that don't have budgets. They have to sell these smart cards just so they can buy a new jersey. Like, teams with those kind of budgets can afford Huddle Sideline. They can run Huddle Sideline. I don't see how major universities aren't allowed to, because there's some sort of discrepancy rule there. Like, hell, and those of you in the Nashville area will get this reference, but if Glencliff and Maplewood and Hillwood and those schools can do it, I'm sorry, University of Buffalo can do it. Like, they can afford it. Huddle has worked with the high schools in being able to make Huddle Sideline effective, cost effective. Now, some teams probably elected not to do it because the manpower and the amount of, the people, the audience you would have watching these things just isn't worth it, because everybody's playing. You don't have time to meet with these guys. But there's other reasons. But in college, there's no excuses to not have tablets on the sideline. I mean, the NFL does it, and even the NFL was late to that too. I mean, for high school to be the first ones to really employ tablets on the sideline is completely asinine. But that's neither here nor there. The point of that, the reason why I'm so stoked about that, is because the level of information you're going to be able to get with the tablets. Okay. What used to happen is you would come off the sidelines and you'd have to rely on GAs and analysts relaying down to the coaches on the sideline, hey, this is the look. And then they have to draw it out on the boards. And they're sitting there with these giant whiteboards, and they're drawing on it all awkwardly and going through it. But now you have real life game film. So it's like you're in the meeting room on the sideline. And so what you're going to see now is, I think you're going to see, with however they can maneuver it on these sidelines. Some of these sidelines are tighter than others, but like, I think you're going to start to see like some of these bigger high schools, like, you see it with Oakland, you see it at Ensworth, Brentwood Academy, all the private schools that have this, all the big schools that have this. And some of the smaller schools are starting to adapt it as well. But like, you have these big TVs. Some schools have two TVs, one for the offense, one for the defense, and they set them up underneath a tent with an iPad as kind of like your on-field meeting room, right? Just think about it at halftime. You pass the iPad around. You can look. You can get a detailed plan between series, between quarters, between halves. You can get real live, hey, this is how they're playing. Or you can zone in on, okay, show me what the defensive end is doing. The offensive lineman can come over and say, hey, this guy is doing this. And then they can quality control that. They can say, hey, no, actually, you were wrong. This guy's doing that. Or, hey, no, you're spot on. This guy absolutely is doing that. Here's how we're going to attack it now. I think it brings more of a chess match into the game. And then I think from the coaching level down, it allows the coaches to provide the players with better information, thus allowing them to be in a better situation to win. And this more so than the helmet communication. The helmet communication is good. It creates effective, efficient communication between the coaches and the players. But the tablets create that real-time film study. You know, you have guys on the sidelines constantly monitoring these tablets, going, you know, marking things and, you know, taking notes and going back and watching series by series. You have analysts in the back that are going to be on iPads just quickly jotting notes down and passing to their coordinators. Coordinators are going to be also looking at it furiously, taking notes themselves. But these analysts are going to be throughout the entire game just looking for things, looking for smaller scale things that coordinators may not be looking for to be able to present to the players. Players are going to be looking for stuff. You might see a quarterback. You might see Diego Pavia come through and say, hey, this is what coach, this is what I'm seeing. And, you know, they can be able to kind of relay some information from there. So, man, this is something that has been long overdue. The chess match is there. I think also just in a grand scheme of things, Coach Beck, especially Coach Kill, I think with Coach Kill, you know, his role now, you put an iPad in his hands. He's not the head coach anymore, so he doesn't have to manage the game. He can sit there with an iPad. He can stand there with Diego Pavia. He can stand there with Nate Johnson while he can put an iPad in Nate Johnson's hand and say, "Hey, this is what you need to see. Study this." You know, you can do a lot of things with that live video that you couldn't do before with just whiteboards and talking through things. You can actually have a film session during the game. And I've lived it. I was a high school coach. I'm taking this year off, maybe for good if this podcast gets elevated. But you know, I've lived it. I've seen it. I've done it. It is effective. These kids, that's how they learn. That is the new age of learning. You point it out to them on the screen. You say, hey, you need to block here. You need to go to here. This guy is going to crash this way. Watch him as he reacts this way. And you get to play that back. And it's so, so effective. And it's so overdue. And lastly, I think as a professional development thing, I think it's going to force offensive coordinators to get out of their play sheet and start calling games instinctually. I think you're going to really see the talent discrepancy between coordinators now. I think you're really going to get to see just how talented these guys are. You're going to get to see how they call games, how they see the game, instincts, chess match, because it's going to be more than like you're going to have to get off your play sheet because your play sheet has tendencies. Your play sheet gives things away. Instincts, you're playing chess. They don't know your next move. You know your next move. And that's when I was a coordinator, that's how I called plays instinctually, because I know if I read my script, I would start to get tendencies. I would start to get situational tendencies, formation tendencies, personnel tendencies. I think some of that goes out the door when you, have iPads to kind of see, okay, well, this is how they're truly reacting. I need to go to this. And then you have the helmet communication that allows you to go, hey, let's get this formation check with me. And then you can say, okay, let's roll this play. You know, I'm thinking this or this, okay? Stand by. I want to see how they're aligned. Okay, 24 is aligned over number 3. Okay, we're going to run play A. It just, the communication's there that allows you to be able to rapidly make changes and make checks up into a certain point, and then the sideline stuff will allow you to really fix more precisely what's wrong, which will in turn elevate the overall level of play. So, but that's a rule change that I've been extremely excited about. The 2-minute warning is good too. I think it helps with the clock rules. I'll talk more about that later, but a lot of positive changes for Vandy. I think Clark Lea did a really good job, like I said, talking about the changes and what's happened and things like that. How do we know there's positive change? I don't think we've ever answered that question. We've talked about there's been positive change. There's been this, there's been that. But and I think thanks to Clark Lea, we kind of get a glimpse of how, right? And we'll see more how as fall camp emerges and rolls on into the season. But we'll talk more about that how next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets at any time I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers. You heard that right. All customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. MLB. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN and you're tired of all that screaming? Well, I have a solution for you. You need to switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Because screaming can be annoying. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. So thank you, everydayers, for making us your first listen. Thank you for making all of this possible. We thank you. Can't thank you enough. And for you new people, stick around. You're going to really enjoy this, especially when football season rolls around. So, but I've talked a lot about the overhaul. Like that's been the number one football story of the offseason. Sprinkled, when I sprinkle in football amongst the basketball season, baseball season, and all those stories, the main theme that comes up is overhaul. This was overhauled. That was overhauled. This operation was overhauled. Recruiting was overhauled. This, that, and the other, right? Well, strength and conditioning training took a massive overhaul as well and yielded some results. And I think you're hearing about all these positive things with the new training regimen, the new training operation, philosophy, whatever you want to call it. But how do we really know though? And that was something that came up at media days. I thought something along the lines of the new training regimen would come up. This is probably where I thought the most. So the question is, how do we know there's a positive change? Here's a little bit of what Clark Lea had to say about that. He said, quote, "Well, we played a lot more football now than we have in the past. You kind of have a feel for how your team is performing in the systems and competing in the systems, just like every other program. Our kids are our kids wear GPS is on the field, so we've got measurables telling us we're moving in the right direction. But one of the things I feel most impressive is the speed has increased, but so has the weight." So what he means by that, right? And he goes on to say later on that like part of what is going to make Vandy better is to start looking and moving like our peers. Being able to walk out on the field and look like Missouri. Run like Missouri. hit like Tennessee. Whoever we're playing that week, we should be able to look comparable to them. And that hasn't always been the case. And that's that is what sparked a massive change, right? There's a lot of systems that broke down for Vanderbilt last year at 2-10. That's very conceivable, but you have to look at it in a way that, you had to do something, right? So in strength and conditioning, I think that's the first thing, is making sure the people you have are going to perform, right? And the things that you do are geared towards being able to run as fast, hit as hard, be as strong as your opponents, right? But also be able to recover the same, if not better, than have better mental health, which will allow your mental capacity. When you're bringing in this new technology, you have to be more apt to digest it. And you can't digest it if you're not mentally healthy. And mental health goes beyond just social and emotional health. It goes into mental sharpness, mental toughness, and then all the social, emotional health factors as well. You have to be mentally well in order to perform at your peak level, and you have to be fueling your body. All of that goes into the training operation. Strength, agility, speed, endurance, toughness, and then all that on the mental side too. Refuel and recovery all goes into that operation. So how do we know that they're getting better? They are faster. Their times are improving. Their strength numbers are vastly improving. We won't know the recovery stuff yet because we're not in season. We won't know the durability stuff because we haven't really got into the meat of the schedule. But like throughout training camp, you're going to see more of how many nicks and bruises are there, how many soft tissue injuries are there, are they better at preventing those? You'll see all of that play out. But like as of right now, you're seeing guys adding weight, which is a protective measure and a performance measure as well, and a strength measure. Because if you put on more weight, a lot of times you're stronger and you're more durable and you're better. You're more effective. You're more efficient as an athlete. And so being able to do that allows you to compete better and for longer. So those are the things, those are the major metrics that really kind of stand out as far as being able to measure early success, right? The competitive spirit is there. I think mental health seems to be pretty healthy because you're getting guys that are, they're talking trash back and forth to each other. I saw that on the behind the scenes video. You're getting guys talking trash to each other, but they're having fun about it. They're having fun with it. They're not being malicious. And that's a sign of good mental health. You're able to have fun, competitive spirit, yet get all the work you need to get done. So I just thought I'd point that out. I thought that was a very interesting quote. I'll put it up here again. I thought this was a very interesting, this is a portion of a quote, but I thought this was very interesting because like we say all this stuff, but like he addresses how. And you can, I've heard the term milquetoast and boring, and you can say all that you want to about Clark Lea, and some of that is a bit true. He's not the most exciting person on the podium, but he gives great, if you really get past all that, he gives great information. I mean, this is top-notch information right here. He gives phenomenal information as far as like giving you insight onto what the program's doing and how they're progressing. So, so you should really kind of just listen to what he's saying versus how he's saying it. And I think that helps you kind of get through, because like coaches are very matter of fact. They're very like, there's some up there that just get up there and they just riff and they go like Lane Kiffin. Like Lane Kiffin can command a room, and I think that's good in recruiting. But like Clark Lea, obviously he has a funny side to him. He has an exciting side to him. But like in front of the media, like in presenting, he's very businesslike. And that, I mean, there's a portion of you that's like, man, this guy's just straight up businesslike, and this is good. So I digress a little bit there too. But anyway, tactical changes. Those were some of the other changes that we had. Where do they rank? How are they important? And what do they mean for this program? Looks like we're going to go overtime here for a little bit. So stay tuned. Welcome back. We are wrapping up the show very quickly. I might add, thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Make sure you make Locked On SEC your second listen. It's going to get very interesting on Locked On SEC as Chris Cordy goes around the conference. But if you don't feel like you're getting enough of each team, make sure you visit their personal pages like Locked On Ole Miss. If Chris isn't giving you enough Ole Miss information and you want to know more about the Rebels, check out Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis. Or Vandy and Auburn play each other. So if you want the other side, check out Zach Blackerby. He does a great show over there at Locked On Auburn. Of course, this is your primary thing. So Locked On Vandy, thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Thank you to the everydayers for making this show an everyday listen. But tactical changes. Where do they rank in the pantheon of changes? Now, most of the time, when you talk changes in the offseason, tactical changes are usually number one, because usually that's really the only major change that you get unless you fire the head coach. Then you get more, you get obviously complete overhaul because you're bringing a brand new head coach. But when you have the same coach who makes tactical changes, which means which is a better, nicer, more professional way of saying firing your coordinators. But where does that rank for what Vandy was looking for? It honestly is pretty far down the list because, to be honest, tactical changes just aren't going to mean as much if you're not bigger, stronger, faster, can recover, and refueling your body. The strength stuff that we talked about in the last segment, right? It doesn't matter if you can't get the players in because you're so far behind in NIL and you got to work like hell to catch up. It's not like it doesn't matter what your philosophy is and how you do on 4th and 1 or 3rd and short and 3rd and medium. It doesn't matter what you do on the field tactically. I mean, it does matter, but it doesn't, it's not as important. The other things, if you get the other things right, it leaves you to the tactical changes, right? Because when you do a complete overhaul like Clark Lea did, you have to get the other things right first. And then if you get the tactical stuff down, because you've nailed fundamentals, you've got the right people in, which he's done through the portal. Just needs more of them now. Strength conditioning training has been really good. I think you have a good healthy, both physically and mentally team. We'll see how good they recover and how good their preventative injuries strategies are. But the tactical changes have been great so far. I don't want to downplay that. I think they've been great, and I think they will be effective on game day. But just the overall importance of getting it right, I think is the next thing in the list. I think I think if you look back at the season, you're going to say, okay, we were successful because we were able to compete longer. And it's going to be a smaller percentage of, hey, we went to a bowl game because we won 22% of our situations, late game situations, and you could map it out tactically to what made the difference. But what it all comes down to is, hey, we got really good guys in here, and we didn't quite have the depth, but it didn't matter because our training program allowed us to keep, for our starters to be more effective deeper into these ball games. And so, if those other things don't work, tactics don't matter. And I think we're on the right track. I think Vandy's on a track to be able to say, okay, now it's up to tactical stuff. Now we've got to go and execute. We've got the pieces. it seems as at this moment, and we'll see more when training camp and the season start, but like you're going to look at it and go, okay, well, we're in a position now that we can really kind of make some noise in a lot of these games. And now we got to do so tactically. So it has come down to, in the grand scheme of it, tactics don't really matter unless you hit the other stuff. But at this moment where Vandy sits, kind of like a State of the Union, where they sit, it is now tactics. It is the tactical turn. It is now on the coordinators, which is one of your coordinators is your head coach, but like it's now on the coordinators to execute these situations and put Vandy in situations, better situations to win. Technology will help that tremendously. Will help them develop those tactics on the sidelines during game day. Having an unlimited number of coaches being able to coach will also help. Hopefully it doesn't provide a too many voices type situation, but it all kind of plays into each other. It all kind of goes hand in hand. But tactics is important when it needs to be, but in the grand scheme of things, it can be made irrelevant real fast if the other things don't hit. And we'll see kind of how it all shakes out, because it's very much like, okay, it's up to tactics now. Okay, well, tactics are working, but now the conditioning is breaking down. Well, now we got to bolster back up our conditioning to where our tactics matter again. So it's all kind of like, I guess the best way to describe it before I let you guys go is it's a sliding scale. All of these factors, all of these things, all of these items are a sliding scale that maneuver almost in real time. But anyway, that's where we're going to leave you. Thank you for listening to the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll see you back here tomorrow and looking forward to it. But until then, see you later. Anchor down. Have a great rest of your day.